guys, I am here with Mark from Mark Tobin Kitchen Design. I reached out to him and he graciously offered to help me redesign my kitchen. I reached out to Mark because I saw some of his videos. His kitchen design videos are great, guys. In the description below, go check it out. He drew some kitchen designs for me and he's going to walk through with me and tell me kind of the pros and cons of the different setups and if it's worth me doing this setup or that setup. Let's jump into it. So first of all, Mark, I like the farmhouse look.
Okay.
Even though we're planning on staying in this house forever, you never know what life may bring up and we may have to resell it. But I really think an elegant type farmhouse look would go better with our house in case we ever had to sell it. Is that style going out of style? Or is it something that will last the next, 10 years or so? Or is that something that I'm just at the end of the train and I need to just rethink that?
No, I think farmhouse is a pretty safe bet. Farmhouse is not going out of style. However, I would caution you on the color of cabinets that you pick.
That was my next question, because I really love the green cabinets I'm seeing on Pinterest.
They're cool. Those are going to go to style. So that's fine. So green and blue, and those colors are going to just, green was not popular until really this year or 2021. Green became more and more popular. I've installed and designed kitchens for 20 years. I've never done a green kitchen, maybe one, in that time frame. Okay, so now they're getting popular, but over the years there's been all these different colors that have come up. Blue was really popular 5 years ago or more. So I would be careful. If it's your kitchen, you're going to stay there for as long as you think you're going to stay there and it's going to be your home forever. Put in whatever color you want. It's your kitchen and you got to love it. If you think you're going to sell it or you're doing this to sell it, don't pick a color like that. Go with white or something that's more going to last out that time. But farmhouse as a style itself, I think is fine. It's going to always be beautiful.
The style should stay.
Yeah.
The green cabinets that I really want. I'm planning on staying at this house until I die. So I might just go with it and just say the kids can deal with it when I'm dead.
Yeah.
So
there you go. Question answered.
Yeah. So I might just do that because even though this isn't my dream house, everybody has their dream house. And this most certainly was not my dream house. This wasn't even on the radar as being a dream house for me, but it's what we need and it's functional for what we need. So now I'm putting in the things that I want.
Right.
That would make it like a dream house for me.
Right. So when you bought this house, the kitchen isn't what you wanted.
Yeah.
And if you sold the house, the kitchen might not be what someone else wants it, but it didn't hinder you from buying the house, the kitchen being as it is.
True.
So that might not hinder someone else from buying the house either. So take that too. Like you bought it in the kitchen, you didn't even like it.
That's true.
So someone else might not like it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really true. Okay, let's look at my kitchen designs here. So my biggest problem with my kitchen is I have no place to cook anything. And so you can see in the video here, I have about 15 inches on each side of my sink. I have about 13 or 14 inches on each side of my stove. And then I have a long counter over here. And then I have a counter over here with a sink in the middle of it. But the flow doesn't work for me. Like I have nowhere when I pull, this sounds so dumb, but when I go to pull stuff out of the refrigerator, I have nowhere to set it because usually there's dishes on the counter next to the refrigerator. And so I can't just set it on there. So I have to walk clear over to the other side. and people are like, oh, Tara, you're just being picky. You have to keep in perspective. I have chronic fatigue syndrome and fibromyalgia. It matters how many steps I take in a day because I only have so many steps I can take before I'm worn out. And I have to have an extremely functional kitchen. I mean, extremely functional. And I was telling you in a previous video, my old kitchen was a third of the size, but it was 100 times more functional than this great big kitchen that I have now. I mean, I have to say, guys, if you need your kitchen designed, Mark has a website. Go down and hire him to do the kitchen design. What do you charge to do this?
It's $247.
Let me tell you, I would have paid, okay, I shouldn't tell you this, but I would have paid double that because
It's good to know.
you may be raising your prices. But here's the thing, because I wanted someone to come in and give me some ideas without having to go through the whole hassle of having someone come in and give me all the ideas. I wanted to see if these things were even feasible or not. And I absolutely love the fact that when I said, well, I really don't know if I want the refrigerator over here, let's move it over here, you didn't just say, no, you just can't do that at all. You did up a drawing for me so I could see it. And then you explained to me, well, it probably wouldn't work to have it over here because blah, blah, blah. And so that's what I really like. So let's walk through some of these designs. So my first design is just fixing the bar.
Yes.
Leaving the kitchen the way it is at the moment and just lowering the bar. But what I love about the design, which I hadn't thought of, was you moved the dishwasher right next to the sink.
Yeah.
Now, why did you do that?
So that you're not taking something that you're rinsing off in your sink over, a span of, even if it's 15 inches over your floor or over something else into your dishwasher, as much as possible. If those two things can be side by side, the better.
That drives me crazy. We're always dripping dirty water.
Yeah.
And that drives me nuts because I'm always cleaning up this dirty water mess on the floor in the cabinets. And
you have a particular situation with your island where your dishwasher is raised. And when I watched your video, why you hate your kitchen, I was thinking, yeah, I can totally relate to that. I've come across very few raised dishwashers, and that is a real issue.
Yeah. Well, and I love that it's raised because it doesn't hurt my back to put in, to put in the dishes, but I have nowhere to put anything.
No.
Because it's raised and it's chopped, it keeps the flow from, I have nowhere, like when I'm unloading the groceries for the refrigerator, we just dump them all over the kitchen floor because I usually don't have a place to put anything.
Right.
And so I like the concept of the raised dishwasher, but practicality, it doesn't really.
It's not practical in a number of ways. It is maybe a little easier to access, but all the reasons you listed is all the reasons why it shouldn't be that way. And when you can lower that and just put in one big work surface island where, even just that alone will increase the capacity and functionality of your kitchen tenfold, just because you have all this space that you can at least even put your groceries on when you come home, or you just have room to work and do things in the kitchen that you'd be doing anyways.
Yeah. Okay. So the next option was to take the sink out of the bar and take the sink out of the bar and only leave the sink under the window. Now, what would be the pros and cons of doing that? Now, for me, seeing that I bake clear on the other side of the kitchen and having to go back and forth to the sink and all that, I don't see that working very well. But then I had thought about moving the baking section by the window, but then I'm still quite a ways away from the stove. So would there be any advantages to having no sink in the bar and only having the sink under the window?
Only if that sink under the window and the location of that entire wall was in a different location and it wasn't separated by a walkthrough into another room, and it wasn't so far away from your oven and your stove. Like, it's just in an odd location, or an awkward location, I should say. And if you did have an island, I love having an island that's just an island and there's nothing in it. However, if it doesn't work out for the layout of that room is laid off, your main kitchen where the L shape and the island, and then you have this other section that's kind of across, this walkthrough, it just makes it awkward. I don't see there being a huge benefit to just having the sink there, other than it gives you a nice big island work surface, as long as you don't mind walking further to go to where you need to go. So
So probably keep either the sink or the range in the island. What I was thinking was actually today, after you sent me more designs, I thought, this house is really dark. And one thing I really wanted was a bright house. And I did not get that. I want to be able to have a nice sunny house, even when the lights aren't turned on.
Yeah.
And so we had thought about taking out those cabinets and just putting a great big window in there, and then a countertop. And I would love to have a place to put some plants, but all of my windows are covered by awnings because I have so many porches on this house, which I love the porches, but I can't grow any plants or anything. So I thought to have just a plain cabinet with a great big, or countertop, I mean, with a great big window. And then I could have some plants there, or we could use it as a desk type thing. You sent me one picture where it was a desk, and I like that idea. I think that might actually, to kind of take that whole wall out of the kitchen.
Yeah.
That might be a good idea. And it's close enough to the refrigerator that if I left the refrigerator there, I could set groceries on that counter to unload also. Now, all right, next option.
Let me talk about that wall for a second.
Oh, yeah.
What you just mentioned. So one of those drawings I sent you, there's a section that you can put a stool in. It's all the same level. And so when you had sent me an email, you had said that, you have some chronic fatigue. And so if you have the kitchen in the L-shaped island area, that's your main functioning workspace, and you did that window, I think would be an awesome idea, just putting in a large window, and you have that counter space, then there is a stool there that you can, it's not lowered, it's the same height, but there's a stool there that you can sit at when you're doing something. I don't know, lots of people, they can, or they do preserves or whatever, they need a space where they're standing for a long time. So having that option of sitting down, you're not losing really any cabinet space for that. You're just gaining a little bit of functionality. So
I absolutely love that. And then underneath, I could change the drawers that I have, and I could make it so that it's shelving for like the Instant Pot and the crock pot. Believe it or not, in this huge kitchen, I have nowhere to put like the Instant Pot or a crock pot
or
you don't. KitchenAid mixer. I have nowhere to put any of that stuff.
Yeah.
And another option was to take out the wall oven and make that like shelving with my crock pot and my Instant Pot and all of that. I liked that idea, but it still cuts up my oven space, or not my oven space, my stovetop space.
Right.
So let's go to the next one where you put the stovetop in the island and we left the sink under the window then. Now, what would be the advantage of moving the stovetop into the island and leaving that? Would that be an easier work triangle? Because I was kind of thinking I could have the baking center where the stovetop is now if we moved the stovetop into the island. Is that a good idea?
I would leave. No.
Okay.
It's not a good idea.
See, and that's what I need, somebody to tell me the truth. And I know some people don't want to hear the truth.
It's not a good idea.
But I want to know the truth.
Yeah.
Honestly, here's what I could see. I could see we have the stovetop in the island and somebody walks in and throws the mail down and I'm cooking and I'm not paying attention and then everything goes up in flames.
Okay. So yeah, I'm not a huge fan of that option. And again, like your sink is still kind of out of the mix. You're still coming across that pass through into that, the other room. What's in that other room? I know you put it in that video.
The laundry room.
Okay.
So the door. So here's something interesting. So that door right there, and I'll put B-roll in as we're doing this, but the door right there, if you go to the left, it's the garage.
Right.
And if you go to the right, they put in a little food pantry.
Okay.
But my garage is so big, I had thought about taking where you walk straight into the garage and making that into a full pantry.
Okay.
Because I don't even really have it. This sounds totally dumb, I know, but I don't really have a place for food storage in my kitchen.
Yeah. Okay, so that was, so there's a lot of traffic coming through there. And so to have the sink there, and you have traffic, cross traffic in your sink, and you're coming back and forth to your island, the more you can get your functioning kitchen that you're working in that L-shaped area, the better, and use that wall for something we previously mentioned, or something else, storage or whatever, the better. So I'm trying to get the sink away from that window completely. But it's an option to just, you can do it. It's just not, it's probably not the best way to do that kitchen.
Okay. So we've determined that having the stove in the bar and having the sink away from under the window is probably best to only have the sink in the bar.
Yeah.
Probably.
In this circumstance, having your sink in your island bar area is probably the best solution. Now, normally, if that pass through wasn't there and that was a complete wall, then yeah, having your sink under that window and making the window wider would be a great location. But in this circumstance, it plays it a little bit differently. So having it in the island is probably your best solution for functionality in your kitchen.
For the sink. Okay.
For the sink, yeah.
So now let's go to the L-shaped portion. Now you did several different renderings. One where we left the wall ovens in and we left the stovetop where it was, and then it was just a great big bank of cabinets, which I love that idea.
Mm-hmm.
I think every kitchen needs just a bank of cabinets just to store the stuff.
Yeah.
I know we get a lot of minimalists and they're like, oh, you got to just get rid of the stuff. Well, I think an Instant Pot is from Satan. I hate the thing. I cook about 3 things in there, but for those 3 things, it's really useful.
Right.
And so, it would be nice to be able to keep the Instant Pot. Do I have to keep the Instant Pot? No, I don't have to, but it's kind of nice. Same thing with the KitchenAid mixer.
Right.
I normally don't use my KitchenAid mixer, mostly just because I don't have a place to put it on the counter.
Yeah.
So I thought where the wall ovens are, putting all of those things in there. But then you did this drawing where we moved the refrigerator over to that wall, have a corner for that instead of a corner cabinet. Now the countertop goes around the corner.
Mm-hmm.
And I have all this prep space with the oven, with the stovetop still there, which I would probably just make it a range. These wall ovens are from Satan. I'm sorry. Did you hear them in the video, the whirring noise in the video?
Yeah. Yeah, they're pretty bad.
I'm at the point, I don't even want, do they make wall ovens that don't make that noise?
I hope so.
Okay, I don't know.
I don't see why I don't think that's a standard feature in most wall ovens, to be honest with you.
When I researched it, they said they have to have those fans going because of because it keeps it cool.
Yeah, I don't think those fans are operating correctly. I don't think they need to be that loud.
So you think they're not operating correctly?
I don't think so, no.
Huh.
They're pretty loud. I don't know. I don't have a double oven. I can't see that type of noise being, there'd be a fan in there, but I would say it's probably on its way out.
Oh, okay. Well, that makes sense then, because I was wondering, I was like, I'm at the point where I don't even want to bake because it's so loud and obnoxious. Right. I don't want to even listen to it. So I was thinking about taking out the wall ovens and just having a range. Okay. And I really love the idea of having a full bank of cabinets with countertop where the stove is. I really like that idea. Now, is it hard to move the refrigerator from where it's at now to that other wall? Is that a hard plumbing issue to do? Do you know, or
is there water in that refrigerator?
Yeah.
And do you know where that's coming from? Are you on a slab or?
No, we have a basement, and actually the kitchen is right under the mechanical room.
Yeah, that shouldn't be a problem. That's what I was wondering, if you were on a slab or if you have a basement. If you have a basement, even, if it's finished, I guess maybe that's a little bit of an issue, but at least it's accessible and you can easily run wires and tubing to there. There'd already be electrical over there. So that's not a big deal. And when you sent me the email saying about getting rid of your wall oven, it was like music to my ears. I thought it's the best solution for this kitchen, to be honest with you. just
Oh,
because of
good.
the space that a wall oven takes up. Now they're great, and they're great functionally because they're up higher. So there's a bit of a trade-off. But when you're dealing with having two appliances that both take up at least 30 inches of space,
Mhm.
you need a certain amount of wall for that to work correctly. So in one of these renderings, I have the range and the double ovens right behind your sink. And the
Mhm.
reason that is because that wall is longer, and so it creates more countertop for that corner to be
Mhm.
accessible and functional than if it was on the other wall to the side. When you take away the wall oven, you can easily put the fridge there, and you can even put a pantry in and still have that countertop space accessible. It opens up everything. So it's something to think about for sure.
Well, and I could put a pot filler behind my
There you
stovetop.
go. Yeah.
I've never had a pot filler. I hear they're kind of cool, although my sink's right behind me, but I mean, that would
Yeah.
still be kind of nice.
Sure. It's the one thing Amy, my wife, always said she wanted was a pot filler. So
Well, and Mike really didn't want to get rid of the second sink only for his coffee. And I'm like,
right.
there's got to be something else that we could put in for your coffee. But if the refrigerator water is there or the sink is right
Right.
behind it, then we could put the coffee straight behind. And what I was thinking was, I love how you had the drawers and the cabinet on top next to the stove top and the dishwasher straight behind it. So all you'd have to do
Yeah.
is pull the dishwasher down and unload straight into those
Yeah.
drawers. I could put the plates and the bowls in drawers
Yeah.
and then just put the mugs and cups up in the top cabinet.
Yep.
I was just like, I mean, because I've been looking and looking. You sent me the original drafts like 2 weeks ago or something. And then we were getting ready for this interview, and I'm like, something's just not jiving with the whole kitchen. But I can't, but I've been racking my brain, standing in the kitchen here and
Yeah.
there, trying to figure out different scenarios and all that. And then when you sent me that, I was like, oh, I think this is what we need to do.
Yeah. And that's like part of the process, because I wasn't completely happy with any of the drawings I sent you. Actually, there's just something that
Mhm.
was missing. And so when I sat down today and looked at it again, just some fresh eyes.
Yeah.
That's all it takes sometimes. And that's really the benefit of doing it this way, is you're not locked into anything.
Mhm.
We can change things as many times over as we need to. And then, you start to see it starts to come together. And I think these latest ones are really working.
So I have to say, the latest ones really struck functionality with me
Mm.
because, like I said, I really need functional. And the stove is right there, the sink is right there, the refrigerator is right there. The hardest part, if you can
Right.
call it that, would be hauling the groceries from the garage to the refrigerator. And I'm like, 6 more feet, that's not gonna hurt anything for that. So I think I'm okay with that.
Right.
So is there anything else you would do differently, or is there something that I'm missing as far as being a really functional kitchen, or any advice that you would have that I've missed things?
Okay. So the latest rendering that we have with the fridge and the pantry and the opened up countertop with the range, I think that's the best particular layout. The next thing you'd want to do is you'd look through each of those particular cabinets, and you're trying to figure out what's going to go in there. Like, what am I
Mhm.
going to use that for? Because when I'm designing a kitchen, I'm throwing in cabinets, and they might not be the exact ones. It's
Mhm.
the layout. We're trying to get the layout
Mhm.
done first. And then it's okay, well, I don't want 2 drawers there. I want 3 or 4, or I don't want any. Like, what is it that's going to work for me? Or do I need an appliance lift? Or do I need something else in that space? And you go through, or you might think, well, I'm missing, this, whatever this is, I'm missing this, or I need a place for my Instapot or whatever. And you go through that, and then you start to fine tune the layout to be exactly what you want. Once you get the functionality part figured out, like the actual where things are going to be located, that's 50% of it. The rest is like going through each individual cabinet.
Okay.
You've heard of the work triangle, right?
Mhm.
So when that was invented, we only had three things. We had a sink, a stove, and a fridge. And so you wanted to have a proximity that was not too hard to manage. But we have, multiple different appliances that we use quite often. So the idea of the triangle is a little convoluted, though it's still very practical and useful. You still don't want to be walking all around your kitchen. You have to make it in such a way where those things are located so that you're not, back over here for your sink and back over here for your fridge, or, you're not walking everywhere, especially because you indicated that you don't want to be, making extra steps. So how do we make that kitchen as functional in that space? And so those latest renderings were, the most functional for that L shape. I mean, you can put a sink out in the living room if you want, it's your kitchen kind of thing, but what's going to work for you in your home? And I think you're pretty much there, getting close.
So would something like an appliance garage work for me in that situation with the long L at the back? My countertops are just standard countertops. Would they have to be extended or something like that for an appliance garage? How would that work?
No, they wouldn't have to.
Wanted an appliance. Honestly, I've always dreamed of having an entire kitchen wall that's one great big appliance garage, and I could just put the blender and the mixer and the instant pot, and crock pot, and just all stuff back there, and then just lift it up when I need it and pull it out. That would be my dream kitchen. But is that something that would work here?
It would work in that location. Depends how much width you need, and you don't want to cramp up that corner. That's the biggest problem, is making that corner a dingy, dark little spot. You want it to be as open as possible, and putting an appliance garage there in that location would probably hinder that, unless you got rid of the pantry unit that's beside the fridge, which I probably wouldn't recommend. Having a pantry is a great option, even though you're saying that in the garage you'd want to maybe put a pantry or something like that. Having it in the kitchen is really functional and accessible. Where you could put it is next to the left of the range where your fridge is now. You could put it there and then just alter the space that your range is in. There's still quite a bit of room there that you wouldn't have to worry about it being too cramped up. So that's one location you could do that. And appliance garages are nice.
Because I hadn't thought about that. And so that was another option that I was like, would that actually work? Okay, now last question. You did a couple of renderings with the microwave on the bottom versus the top. Now, when Mike saw that, he was like, oh, I don't think so. But how hard is it to use a microwave down low versus up top?
That's depends on the person. My microwave is in my island, and no, I don't have any issues. I like it down there. It's fine. Some people wouldn't like it if they don't like, they want to be bending over, or if they use their microwave a lot. We don't use ours a lot, so it's not that big an issue. It's not difficult to put it in a wall cabinet. I wouldn't put it above your range. That's a definite no. And but you could put it in a wall cabinet and it still be quite functional. So I'm thinking like left of your fridge in that location, or you could do it. The problem with microwaves is they stick out. They just, I don't know the right way to say this. I don't want to use the word ugly, but you know what I'm getting at? Like they're
ugly and they stick out.
They're just ugly and they stick out. They're gross looking. So I like to put them in tucked away somewhere. Like anyway.
Well, and they do have microwave drawers now, which I didn't know was a thing until I started looking into all this. And that might be a little bit easier solution.
Yeah.
I don't know.
The one I have is a like an oven door style. So it pulls down. It's a standard microwave, but it pulls down like an oven. It's way more accessible than a door style, like hinged, left to right, because then most microwaves are hinged a particular way, and if it's not hinged right, like it kind of gets awkward. But it's no more expensive than a regular microwave and just pulls down. So that's an option. But if you're going to put it in a wall cabinet, like we would want to either incorporate it into the pantry unit itself. So it's inset and it, looks like it's meant to be there. Otherwise, we have to play around with the design so it doesn't look like it's out of place.
So why would you not put it over the oven?
Over the
stove?
Over the range?
Mhm.
I'll have a whole video on that of why I don't like over the range microwaves.
Oh, okay. I'll put it
Yeah,
in the link
yeah, you can
below. So give
watch
me
the
the
video.
short version and I'll send them to watch that
So
video.
the short version is most people aren't particularly tall,
Mhm.
and it's a little bit high up there. You're reaching for it over your stove, which is boiling with whatever, and it's just dangerous, and it's right in front of your face if you're cooking and the microwave's going. I know there's a lot of debate about whether or not it emits anything, but I don't know. I just still don't like the microwave blasting in my face. That's one of the reasons I don't like it as well. But the location is just awkward. Now, if it's up in a cabinet, it can be lower because you don't need the distance above that you do with a range. So it has to be a particular distance for it to meet code and to be safe. But if it's in a cabinet, it can be lower. So it's a little more accessible. When it's up high like that, then it's just, it's too high. It's a little bit dangerous, in my opinion.
So I wonder, what do you think of me? Like, I've never seen this before,
Mhm.
but it just occurred to me. What if I put like a shelf just to set a microwave on next to the refrigerator that's kind of up off the cabinet? So I still have a little bit of cabinet space underneath where I could store maybe the rice that we use a
Yeah.
lot, or something like
Yeah.
that. Would a shelf,
Yeah.
something like that work, or
Yeah,
would
you,
that
you
not?
can get a microwave shelf. It's a cabinet with a shelf on
Oh, you
it.
can?
Yeah, and it just
Oh,
sits in there, and that's totally fine. The thing with a microwave is they're deeper, so that cabinet needs to be deeper. And when it's close to a corner, it gets awkward. So if you cut off the corner, so the further away from a corner, the better. Just so it's not cutting off the corner, but tucked in behind the fridge and that on that wall is probably the better location for it.
okay.
Yeah,
That's what I was wondering. And this is something that we're kind of talking through. We hadn't talked through all of this before because I was still trying to figure out what we were wanting. And so now, as you're
right.
saying things, I'm like, man, I really like the idea of a big pantry next to the refrigerator. I'm
Yeah.
just thinking that would just be glorious. Uh, and
How often do you use the microwave?
a lot. We use it a lot.
Use a lot. Okay.
But I've got teenagers, so
Right.
they're always using it. But
Okay. Well, they're not going to mind bending over
no,
into it.
but
Um,
they're also going to be gone, and so then it's just going to be Mike and I.
yeah.
So a drawer, I could see a drawer pulling out one would probably work.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
It's one of those
but
things. Like, I don't like to, when I'm designing a kitchen, I don't want to design it around a microwave.
yeah.
Right. So I always, that's why I like to put them in base cabinets, because they tuck away nicely. They can inset and they look like part of the landscape. But when they're put up in a wall cabinet, sometimes they can look out of place. Like, I need to have a microwave and it has to go somewhere, and that's the only place it could go, but it doesn't look that nice. And when you're spending type of money that you're going to spend to redo a kitchen, you don't want it to revolve just around that appliance. And sometimes that's what happens, and the mistake people get into. If it could go into a base cabinet, and once you're used to using it after a week, you're like, oh, this is great.
Okay. Okay. That's kind of what I was wondering. Okay. So now if I completely gutted my whole kitchen and started over again, I've never done this before, so I have absolutely no concept of what something like this would cost. Are we talking $4,000 or $5,000 to totally gut your whole kitchen and replace it, or are we talking $30,000 to $50,000 to do this? What? Let's say a medium grade everything. What kind of price range are you looking at to totally? Because we're debt free, we do everything with cash, so I kind of need an estimate of. I mean, I'll get as we get closer, I'll get a real estimate,
Right.
but just kind of to keep in my mind what kind of price range we're looking at. How much does this kind of thing cost?
So you asked if it's between like 5 or 30. I'll say yes, it's between that.
So
So
probably around $15,000-$20,000 at least.
so let me ask you a couple qualifiers. You're gonna have it installed.
Yeah.
Okay. You're thinking of maybe like an IKEA.
Mm, probably not, but maybe.
Okay. So let's say not then. You're going
Now let's
custom.
say not. I'd
Okay.
rather go high and be
Okay.
happy that I
Let's
saved money than
let's go custom. You're getting them installed. Countertop. What's your choice?
laminate all the way. I want easy clean, Don't give me none of that fancy stuff. They have laminate that looks great now. So
They do.
I'll take laminate any day over any of that other fancy stuff.
There's not too many around like that'll say that.
But I'm practical. I don't want to have
though.
a special cleaner.
Yeah, I have laminate.
Do you?
Yeah, I love it.
I think honestly, sorry, all you viewers out there that are going to send me hate mail, but I think people are crazy for putting in marble and quartz and whatever the other one, what's granite, all that, because you have to be careful and you have to clean it carefully and stuff. And this is something people don't think about, but when you have kids, stuff breaks easier on stone than it does laminate.
Yeah, it's not a popular opinion. I get flack for it too, but I love laminate. I really do. And
so yeah, so laminate all the way.
Okay, so you're going laminate, you're going custom cabinetry. Otherwise, you're getting them installed. I'm not going to include your appliances. You're going to set a separate budget for that, and all of your, like, you're going to redo the floor and all that, but that's going to be something separate. So just cabinetry, countertop, installation, and like hardware and stuff like that. You're probably in the 15 to 25 range pretty quickly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
But all right, guys, you can hire Mark as your kitchen designer. Let me tell you, I 100% recommend his services. He did a wonderful job sending me ideas. Mark, tell them in the description below what it's going to be, but what is your website, and tell them what kind of things you do, kind of just a little summary of what you do. We've kind of talked about it and showed the things that you can do with my kitchen.
Yeah.
But what's your cost, and where can they go to find you?
So you can find my online design service at www.mtkd.ca, and everything's on there, the price and how to connect with me. Basically, you just send me your measurements, and we go back and forth on getting some different design ideas that work for your kitchen. And then from there, it's basically up to you where you're going to take that to. But if you're looking for a finalized floor plan and elevation views with measurements for installers, I can provide all of that. And if you want to just get to know me, you can check me out on my YouTube channel. It's Mark Tobin Kitchen Design. And that helps clients, future clients, get a taste of what I'm like and feel comfortable with me. So everything that I do design wise, it all feeds through from YouTube, because that's how we can connect, and you can kind of get to know me to decide, hey, if I'm right for you, then that's great. So you can find me there.
Well, and I love the fact that you can spend around $250 and have someone come in and just tell you if things are possible. That's what I loved about it.
Yeah.
I didn't have to hire a kitchen designer to work with for weeks on end, coming to my house several times and all this kind of stuff. I just sent you my measurements and you sent me the drawings, and I was like, well, I don't like this and I like this. So now, even if I have to hire someone locally when I actually go to do all the cabinets, that saved me so much time.
Yeah.
And headache. That's what I loved about it. So
yeah, oh, that's good. I'm glad it worked.
Yeah, I couldn't recommend you more. I just absolutely
appreciate it.
loved it. Thank you so much for helping me with my kitchen. So here's my new kitchen design. This is how I am going to set up my new kitchen. Okay, so we're going to start over here on this wall. Now, please forgive me. Nothing is cleaned up because we have no water right now. So if you see coffee grounds and all that, just ignore it. All right, this whole bank right here. See this whole bank right here? This is really not going to be a part of the kitchen, so to speak, anymore. We are going to take out these cabinets here, here, and here, and put a great big 6 or 8 foot or bay window in here. And this here is going to be one great big long plant counter. So what you guys may not know is I went to trade school for greenhouse management and landscape design. So the fact that I'm even a world famous cookbook author is pretty hilarious, actually. So that's what we're doing. Clear over here is all of that's coming out. And I'm going to have one great big long cabinet over there. For the bar is going to be lowered so the bar can actually be usable. This is going to move here, and this is going to move here. And then we may remove this and just have an open shelf on the top and just have the trash can slide under there. I hate dinking with this thing. Drives me nuts. The trash gets filled and it gets all caught. I don't know. I think it's from Satan if you ask me, but okay. So next over here, we are going to remove all of this. These are going to go over here so the dishes will unload from the dishwasher straight into here. One of these will go over here so that probably have the coffee stand right there, maybe, not quite sure. And then here, we're gonna put the refrigerator, and then we're gonna move the cabinet from the laundry room over here for a pantry. Take out these satanic ovens that are awful. Make this an L. And I might need to buy a new corner cabinet, so I hope they match. And then here, we're going to put the range right here and move the microwave over here, probably up on a shelf next to the refrigerator. So tell me what you think. I absolutely hate this color cabinets. I hate it, but I think what I'm gonna do is I'm going to get all these soffits out. I hate those too. I actually like seeing stuff on top of my cabinets. I know, but I clean it every 6 months and I'm okay with that because I enjoy it. It makes me happy to see all my old farm stuff on the tops of my cabinets. So I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna paint the walls behind there green, leave these this color, and get white countertops. See how I like that? If I still just really hate it, then I will paint the cabinets green and be done with it. We will save probably $10,000, $15,000 by reusing the cabinets that we have. And I'm okay with that. They actually work really well. I just don't like the color and the style. I like a cottage farmhouse style, and so this just isn't my style at all. And so I'll probably eventually change it. So we will save a significant amount of money if we don't buy new cabinets for this really big kitchen. Also, we have new products coming out, so we're investing every single penny from the business back into new products right now. So we are cash only, guys. You should never, ever, ever, I don't care what your realtor says, ever take out a home equity loan to remodel your kitchen. We pay cash. That's what we're doing for this. Probably be around $8,000, $9,000 maybe, instead of 15 to 25. That is gonna save us a huge chunk of money, and we should be able to do it by the summer. Also, another tip, guys, even if you really, really hate your new kitchen, live with it for a little while. I would have never thought of having a plant countertop, which actually is a dream that I forgotten that I had had. And I'm like, well, wait a minute, I could actually have a place to put all my plants now. And so that I'm super happy with. I would rather live with these cabinets and have a really nice, spend $2,000 or $3,000 on a really nice big window than that money on cabinets. That's me, you know. Let me know what you think down below. Go check out why I absolutely hate my new kitchen so you can see why I'm doing all this. Because, you know, it really isn't functional and I've got to get it fixed. So I'll go check out that video, guys. Visit us at livingonadime.com and we will see you guys next time.